Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we are going to make the last video on The Boys, and the first one on Euphoria, I guess. The review for Season 5, Episodes 7 and 8. These two episodes, I said in the last video, they had a lot of ground to cover. I think they stick the landing towards the very end. I'd say the last, 30 minutes or so, the last half of episode 8 is really good. All the character work is good. But for episode 7, it just didn't seem like a penultimate episode, like what you would really expect from a TV show. A penultimate episode, you're so jazzed for the next and last episode. This one, I think the weakest parts are, of course, Marie and Jordan not having any impact at all. They just show up and say hi, and it's a cameo, and then they're gone. It's a really baffling choice, especially after you have 2 seasons of Gen V with these up-and-coming actors. Even if you incorporate them into one fight scene, something, you can do something. And they choose not to. They choose to just have Annie, scold them for no reason. It's very frustrating. I mean, I look back and, there were, some negatives of Season 5, but overall I enjoyed it. The biggest criticism is, what the fuck about Gen V? If they really were smart, they would include Gen V characters and then have them be in some sort of spin-off. Or be incorporated into some spin-off in a big or a small way. I don't think anybody really cares about the whole Vought Rising thing. Why am I going to watch a spin-off of Soldier Boy in the past, when he's a fucking Nazi? It's just a baffling choice. And there are definitely positives in this episode and the last episode, but that's definitely the most frustrating. I think this episode had a lot of good moments. The Deep, he litters. He's obviously a dickhead, and they play him up to be like a Chad, stereotypical bro that is like a fake ally and fake cares about the environment. But then you see flashes of him actually caring about the environment, him pissed off about the Deep blowing up that pipeline and being blamed on him. There was a lot of fish that died. He calls it a fish genocide. And I thought that was really interesting because he treats people so shitty. He usually, unless it was that squid that one time, and he was, being very impulsive and killing his squid wife. Usually he cares more about animals than humans, which is, pretty twisted, pretty in line with the boys. And this is on the boys on, their lowest. Annie is at her lowest. She's, very pessimistic again. She has a quote saying, "Why save people who don't want to be saved?" That's really good. It's really good stuff. The show is, kind of hit or miss sometimes with its commentary. It doesn't seem like it's doing quite enough sometimes. It doesn't seem like it's really, it feels like it's too blanket sometimes. But I think a lot of it does have merit. In this episode, it had a lot of those moments. The Deep even mentions San Antonio when he's like, "Oh, I could just patrol one city and we can, I can help out with that." Sage and Frenchie working together was cool. It's just, I also, someone pointed out on Reddit, you don't think about it in the moment. Like, you watch the episode and you kind of forget the very beginning. They just teleport back to their base. Right after Homelander gets the V and they're in that field and bomb sites there, there's no like runoff, there's no like transition. Everything is just very, and then this happens, and then this happens, and a lot of stuff is just wasted. Maybe they could have used more runtime. You know, who knows? Yeah, there are a lot of good scenes in a vacuum, but it was a very jarring penultimate episode. I think everyone could agree to that. For the finale, I think, it was just really crazy having this show end. I mean, I started watching this show. I was living with my uncle in the end of 2019, I think, is when the first season came out. Watched it on his Prime Video and just being blown away by it and really liking the twist on the superhero stuff. Me and every teenager around then was watching, 2017 to 2019, that was really the height of comic book movies and comic book media as a whole, like in pop culture. And I wrote here, if we don't see Marie, I'll be so angry. This finale better be amazing. And Marie's there to say hi for 1 second. And they're like housing, starlighters or whatever, or older people, people that need sanctuary. Basically, it's the assault on the White House, and which is done pretty well. It feels very on the ground. It feels very... It never gets too big. I know some people had that criticism of, like, it wasn't scorched earth. I think they wanted to keep it small. And also, yeah, the budget definitely wasn't there like it should have been. Like, some stuff like when Homelander flies that tech CEO up and then, supposedly kills him when he drops him or flies him to space. We don't even see that. It's just very... We don't see any... It's just very frustrating. Ashley actually kind of has a redemption and lets them in. But she doesn't fully work with them. She's just letting them pass. So she's still... and she's the president at the very end. So she's still a little corrupt. I really, really liked the ending when Huey and Starlight are pregnant and they're having a baby, and Butcher is doing his worst. His dog dies and Ryan rejects him. He's very pessimistic and he thinks doing the virus would be better. And then Huey kills him, which I think is a reverse of what the comic is like. I think Butcher kills Huey in the comic, which is a really interesting twist, and I think works a little bit better for the show, too. So, and then that was it. Man. Wow. It's crazy to see it end. But I'll definitely be going back, and if I ever rewatch it, I'll just rewatch those first 3 seasons, Moving on to Euphoria, Season 3. I think me, just like everyone, was just really, really mildly to very curious about this new Euphoria season. It got delays and stuff, and then the strikes. I never really thought it would come out, but it did, and it's about them in adulthood and their mistakes and turbulences and, them doubling down on their characteristics from the first few seasons. And it's definitely not that great. It's definitely even not that good. It was always very interesting, though. I can definitely say that. Sometimes it's just, yes, it is at a strip club. Like, there's going to be more sex and more, like, naked women and stuff. I just, Season 1, I could kind of understand, like, okay, it's, like, very stylized, like, high school and drama and that sort of thing, and romances. But then, sometimes, especially in Season 3, for me, it does feel like what a lot of people say, their criticism, Sam Levinson is just having his fetish on screen. You know, yeah. There's just some parts that are just like made to make you feel gross, like, and I'm sure that's an intention with a lot of like the throwing up and like the shitting stuff with the laxatives, and there's a bunch of drug stuff. But yeah, I don't really know. But as for the very end, the last episode might have been the most memorable episode. Rue dying is just really, really tragic, and the way it's done is really sad. And Coleman Domingo's character discovering it and, feeling lost and feeling he's lost his faith. And he gets his fucking shotgun and saws off the front of it and gets his old army uniform and he goes and shoots up the strip club and shoots up Alamo. They really go for the fences. I mean, this is where his Tarantino is like on full display. And I'm just kind of thinking about this in the moment. If you really want to compare it to Tarantino, it's a little like Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. We're just going to like kind of hang out with these characters, see what Rue does, see what Cass and, man, I'm forgetting his name. But you know his name. He played Frankenstein. I'm forgetting the actor's name too. But and then at the very end, it's very action and very bloody and very rising, and then there's this big climax. But it's obviously not done nearly as well as like a movie like Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. I'm definitely interested in. There's this one YouTuber I watch, Taylor Williams. He makes amazing like Euphoria deep dives and like mostly in a negative light because he's not that big of a fan of it. It is very style over substance, and I heard The Idol was the same way. So like obviously I never checked that out. But yeah, that'll be about it. Closing the book on, man, two TV shows that have spanned half a decade, more than half a decade, which is has been a big chunk of my life so far. Yeah, I still need to watch Invincible. I'm excited for Severance season 3. I'm excited for The Chair Company season 2. There's a lot of good TV shows out there, even if I am a movie guy. So thank you for watching, and tune into the next one.